I know Ben already discussed a little bit the recent SCOTUS case, basically for Fourth Amendment protections in terms of search and seizures. Yeah, this is a long line of cases that has, like I said, eroded the protections of the Fourth Amendment. I mean, the fact that we are now saying that, even if it's, in this specific instance with an illegal search, it's no big. We're going to still let the evidence in anyway. Really, what I want to talk more about, just a little bit about, is the fact that reasonable suspicion. This standard of reasonable suspicion is actually rather low when you compare it to probable cause and preponderance of the evidence. In civil suits, preponderance of the evidence is, it's more likely than not that XYZ happened or so and so did whatever, and then reasonable beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard in our criminal cases. Reasonable suspicion is a very ambiguous. It's a very ambiguous standard. It relies on these standards of reasonableness that we have in our jurisprudence. When we're talking about police behavior, is actually very subjective. There isn't a real definitive objective standard, despite the allegation that it's subjective. I mean, often what is considered reasonable by police officers really relies heavily on sanction, ability to racially profile, and do tons of other things, right? Like reasonableness. Like even if we're talking about what is reasonable in terms of use of force, like there's a whole conversation around police behavior and engagement that needs to absolutely happen at the highest levels that does not. But yet we continue to have the Supreme Court making such decisions in a vacuum as if all these other issues do not exist. In terms of what is reasonable and in terms of whether or not reasonable suspicion exists to carry out these types of searches, I mean, it is highly problematic. It will continue to be highly problematic. And we will continue to see, when we're talking about we want to equalize the criminal justice system and we want to deal with these issues, we have really bad law. We have really bad law that has come down from the Supreme Court. We have really bad statutory and constitutional interpretation. And we're not going to see, you can't have real meaningful reform without addressing some of those serious issues, particularly when we're talking about Fourth Amendment protections from unreasonable and unlawful searches and seizures. Like, that's just it in a nutshell. So I just wanted to just throw in my little 2 cents. I don't want to necessarily relitigate, so to speak, everything Ben already discussed with the Sotomayor dissent, which is, I mean, she's had a couple of these dissents on this particular issue since she's been on the bench already.